Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Super Prime UK with your Super Prime valuation specialist, myself, Rob Cohen.
And myself, James Wild.
Been another great week in the market, super busy, travelling around Europe, some great client meetings, you know who you are, brilliant time spent with some industry experts from lending and banking and finance, just brilliant spending time with you, highlight of my week, so thank you for those of you that gave up your time to spend with myself and do what we do best in property and lending and valuation. What do you got for us this week, James?
Thanks, Rob. Just start off with the data this week, and it's been another pretty good week in the London property market, Rob. We've got just another 300 new instructions this week, so slightly down on last week, although that was a particularly sort of bumper week in terms of new instructions. In terms of sold numbers this week, transactions 148, so again slightly down on last week, but again very positive in terms of numbers. We've averaged about sort of 150 a week for a couple of months now, so that is really sort of the sweet spot, and it's that sort of steady growth we've got in the market. We do have Easter coming up in a couple of weeks, so I'm not sure if that might cause a slight blip in the data just over obviously the sort of Good Friday, Easter Monday, so we'll just see what impact that has on the data. Obviously 2 short weeks there, but averaging about 150 a week.
Yeah, I'm loving the consistency in the market. I'm loving that we've had a lovely 4 or 5 weeks where there's been a really good level of instructions, hence under offers and sold properties, and ultimately in any market, consistency and sustainability is the key. And when we've seen so much volatility and so much uncertainty in market conditions over the last few years, really what we want out of 2022 is a consistent pipeline of transactions and volume. And so far, a quarter in, so far so good.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. And again, like you say, under offer 250 this week. So again, a good pipeline for the coming weeks in terms of the transaction volumes there. So hopefully that continues, and like we say, each week the agent stock starts to be replenished. People are more sort of entering the market and making that decision to sell their homes as the sort of turnover of stock takes place. In terms of other news, Rob, we've got a bit of property news. The house builder Bellway has defied some of the supply chain issues in sort of delivering housing to the market. They're quite a sort of volume UK house builder. Their sort of financial statements, their profits have reached £250 million. So you know, a major player in the sort of UK house builder market, and their completions of new stock has hit their best ever levels. So in just some stats on that, Rob, their average price they're selling for nearly £312,000. It's obviously above the UK average price in terms of the average UK home. In terms of the pent-up demand, they've constructed nearly 5,700 properties in the last year, and they've taken advantage of obviously those sort of low interest rates, although we're starting to incline, and now especially with the recent interest rate rise and obviously the stamp duty holiday last year, I think that's really helped them to spur on their sales. And in terms of their sort of financial position, they've got an order book of almost 8,000 homes sort of off plan, so they're sort of valued there in terms of that stock about £2.2 billion. So not only are they performing well in the current market, but they've got, you know, a massive pipeline in terms of delivery of new homes, which, you know, we're crying out for in all sectors, all regions of the UK. That sort of house building, we're massively behind on sort of delivery targets. Many local authorities are sort of haven't got their sort of 5-year land supply. So hopefully sort of themselves and the other UK house builders are helping to sort of bridge that gap.
Yeah, I think what we would have seen from a lot of the larger developers is there would have been a lot of land banking, waiting for the right moment and the opportunity to then enter the market, and that's why we're seeing such strong returns, because the demand is there. There's obviously a huge shortage in the UK, and the developers are sitting on a good land bank of supply that they're slowly but surely bringing to market with huge response from purchasers and the pent-up demand of that's been created.
Yeah, definitely, and also topical with April around the corner. The residential property developer tax is obviously starting up in April for those revenues thresholds over £25 million. So Bellway would obviously be within that. Sort of 4% of their profits would obviously be taxed in terms of that RPDT, residential property developer tax. So it's obviously come at quite a topical time there, but the sort of that is specifically targeted those sort of major UK house builders, just in terms of trying to replenish some of the government money that's been spent on rectifying some of the cladding issues, which we've seen sort of here in London quite extensively, and also across the UK on many sort of residential tower blocks. Rob, a bit high street news this week. It's right, sort of talk about the property sector as a whole. Ted Baker had a couple of takeover bids the last week or so. The latest bid values the high street brand at £254 million, based off a bid of just under 138 pence per share. I think it's a story of many high street retailers, actually, in terms of lots of takeovers. Some have unfortunately sort of folded. But I mean, Ted Baker, if you look at their performance since 2015, when the share price peaked over £25 per share, you can see, I mean, it's reduced by over 100%. And I think, you know, it's a story of many high street retailers in the last 5 years. With as a lot of fashion retailers have moved online, and they have really absorbed a lot of the market share. So it's sort of sink or swim for a lot of the high street retailers if they haven't moved online, or certainly got a very large presence not only on the high street but online, and diversifying themselves.
I think TM Lewin were also in the news in the last week as well. You know, high street has absolutely taken a beating, high street fashion, and you know what we've experienced over the last two years with lockdowns, etc. That's just expedited that downturn. So unless you're flexible, agile, and you're ahead of the curve, and you've got your hybrid online offline model in place, you're going to suffer. And I think a lot of the chains have performed successfully over the years and maybe took their eye off slightly, and they're now paying the price.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't bought a suit in about 2 years, Rob, and you know, I wear a suit most days, so I mean, they must be really struggling. Some of the sort of TM Lewin, Charles Tyrwhitt, a lot of those suppliers like Horse and Curtis, sort of list goes on really. So for someone that sort of wears a suit most days, I haven't bought one since the start of COVID. Then
we'll get you on for your birthday.
It's just sort of a sign of the times, isn't it? I think people are dressing slightly more casually as well. So that's...
It's true. I was thinking that you always come with a tie every week to the show, and you know, I was thinking this morning how fashion trends, business etiquette have slightly changed.
Yeah, I think the chino sports jacket is a bit more in these days than suits maybe. But just to finish off, in terms of out-of-town shopping centres and retail parks, cost of household living is very in the press at the moment, very topical, Rob. Cost of groceries gone up around sort of 5% in the last year, and we've talked a lot about sort of the Aldi, Lidl having lost a lot of market share during lockdown with the absence of their sort of home delivery not being part of their model. They're starting to sort of eat their way back into the market share, Rob. The squeeze in the cost of living, the last few months, the reports of their market share replenishing and starting to overtake some of the traditional sort of big four in terms of the supermarkets there, and their expansion plans. Those particular too. We've brought you news, over the last 2-3 quarters, their sort of surge on new sites, their search for sites and opening new branches as well. So that they're really starting to sort of re-enter the market and sort of battle for that market share.
Yeah, I think taken a big interest in the out of town and the retail space, and some funds and institutions are looking at that asset class as an opportunity. There's been a lot of overseas interest into that space as well. I've seen for some funds and institutions. So I think it's an attraction, and I think it'd be interesting to see how it performs in the UK compared to maybe other European cities.
That's it. And just lastly, on the out of town sort of shopping and retail parks, obviously the fuel duty got reduced last week, 5p. We're not sure we fully felt that being passed on to some of the consumers at this particular time. They're obviously going to come under some pressure in the next week or so. I mean, the sort of price of diesel being 170, 180 pence a litre still, and petrol sort of 160 to 170 pence per litre. I think there might be a bit of a those big four in terms of the supermarkets often have deals in terms of if you buy products from their store, they give you a small discount. That could be something that's really tied in at the moment with the cost of fuel and the squeeze onto grocery costs. So maybe a bit of synergy there from the big four supermarkets as well. I
think we'll definitely see that. They're always, I would say, relatively ahead of the curve in enticing their clientele to physically shop in stores, and I'm sure we'll see a variety of methods and sales techniques in attracting people to their premises.
That's it. Not quite a loss leader, but more of an inducement to sort of shop at the store, and they sort of battle on the deals and incentives.
Yeah, brilliant. Great updates as always, James. Hopefully looking forward to another crazy busy week ahead with lots of opportunities, lots of meetings, lots of activity in the market out every day. Things are really moving on in 2022, hopefully for all of you as well. Thanks for the usual engagement throughout the socials. Absolutely love it. Every comment, every like serves as our motivation to continue feeding you with all of the intel and information that we see out there every day on the ground, and we do everything we can to share that all with you. So thank you all. Keep following, keep up on LinkedIn, keep up on YouTube, and keep listening to the podcast. Thank you for all of that, and we'll see you all next week. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks, James.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks very much, everyone.